Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk with the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. You know what? This is Talk with the Titans, and on tonight's show, we've got the illustrious Imam Bashir in the building, who's going to give us a blockbuster of a show, delving straight into the scientific fable known as Darwinism, exposing it for what it is, and also letting us know what the Quran has to say on evolution and creation. So you know what, without much further ado, assalamu alaikum to my brother Imam Bashir.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings of Allah be upon you as well. And honors and respect to the listeners, the host, and it's a pleasure to be here. I want to begin how we always begin, because I think we definitely need it. I need it. And I would say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I seek refuge with Allah from the accursed Satan. And we begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Brother Kalam, this is a very important topic tonight, and the reason why I will need to expose Darwinism or neo-Darwinism or any branches of it is because it is trying to do three deadly things, which I'm going to term now as three deadly sins, right? The first thing that we're going to find that the philosophy of the so-called naturalists and scientists, they are trying to take us away from the first thing, which is the Almighty Creator Himself. They want us to leave the thought and the idea that there is a super mind or an intelligent designer or a creator that is the cause and creator of everything animate as well as inanimate. And this is very deadly, and we're going to prove this in just a moment. The second thing that we find with the Darwinism or neo-Darwinism and these naturalists, so-called scientists, they want to put themselves in a position where they are the most superior entity on the planet because they evolved later than everyone else, which means that their intelligence, which means that their physiology, which means that their biology is the most perfected on the planet. And this is a systematic attack against black and melanated people with no question. The third thing they want to do is they want to take our
Let me know if you can hear him.
His audio's gone.
Okay. So, for those who don't know, Talk with the Titans was birthed out of the idea that the intellectual giants should have a well-organized platform to present, discuss, and debate critical information affecting our community, proposed by you, our audience members, our community. So if you have not already subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button down below or just up there or over here in the corner, and subscribe to the show. We've got tons of titans passing in through the studios. We have people like Irritated Genie, Lord Abba, Gorilla Hebrew, Shaka Ahmos, our brother Anka Kek, brother Simon Hotep, all sorts of brothers passing in through the studios to give us their thesis and even to be interviewed as well. So today we're actually going into evolutionism, we're going into Darwinism, and you know what, our brother Imam Bashir so far has been, dropping some science to us. He's letting us know that for those who, follow and accept and propagate the teachings of Darwinism, or should I say neo-Darwinism, you're doing three things. First of all, Darwinism doesn't account for the creator. It completely negates and relegates the creator completely. Secondly, Darwinism states that the purporters of Darwinism For example, the Victorians, Darwin himself, the European man is supposedly the greatest, the most evolved creature on the earth. The reason why he's the most evolved creature on the earth is because for the last 6,000 years, I believe it's 6,000 years now, that gene is coming to existence. Our brothers from the Amun Ra squad and even from Team Osiris could give us the breakdown of when the European man, or the white, pale skin, brown haired, straight haired man came into existence. He's also saying the third thing, that it places them on the top of the authority, the hierarchy of who we should listen to on this particular accounts. So this is what our brother Imam Bashir is currently stating to us. So I want to know whether you agree with what he is saying himself. Have you read The Origins of the Species? Are you familiar with neo-Darwinism or Darwinism full stop? Do you have an atheistic ideology? Do you believe that there is no there's no need for God in the creation of man, in the evolution of man? Let me know, please. Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, do you think that because the so-called white man, European man, was the last human being to evolve, is he superior, or is that man superior to the rest of mankind? Or do the purporters of Darwinism even acknowledge that type of ideology? Please let me know. Okay. And where did we come from? Where, as human beings, how did we come about? Where is your source of ideology that's leading you to your conceptualization of how man came about? I want to know, do you get it from the Bible? Do you get it from the Torah, the Tanakh? Do you get it from the Quran? Do you get it from traditional African concepts, or do you get it from Egyptian, Arabian? Where do you get your concept of how man came about? Let me know. So here we go. You know what? We're just waiting for our brother Imam Bashir to come back in. He's in right now, so that's perfect. So Imam Bashir, please take over.
Yes, sir. So let's go into this concept of Darwinism and neo-Darwinism. And let me explain why there was a transition from standard Darwinism, from Darwin himself and his ideals, into what we call neo-Darwinism, which is an extension of Darwin's ideals and philosophy and methodology. So Darwin essentially believed that we turn from species to species. And in that, he also came up with a term, survival of the fittest, which is an extension of what they call natural selection. What I'm going to expose is Darwinism itself, neo-Darwinism, and we're going to expose the idea of the so-called survival of the fittest that many of us have been led to believe is true. And when we define it, you will see that they are playing their game. So let's go to understanding this. Science means to observe. And if you trace the word back, science, they will tell you that science, the root word of science, means to know. But in reality, you will be able to see that science actually doesn't mean to know. It actually is to try to know or try to understand certain things, because they are always changing the information, and the information is always subject to change. So something that is always subject to change denotes that they do not know. And when you look into their science, so-called science, you look into what they're trying to say is their proof and evidence, you will see that these people actually don't know anything. And the main reason why is because they have attached themselves, they detach themselves from God's consciousness. So let's just take a look at the creation of the universe and how life was supposed to come from the Darwinistic perspective, and the theory of natural selection and the survival of the fittest. Now, as they say that at one point there was nothing in our universe. Our universe was null and void of life and existence. One day, something happened where an atom as small as the tip of a needle came into existence, and it started to sporadically grow and grow and grow and get bigger, and explosions started to take place, which gives us the Big Bang. And of course, I'm fast forwarding the story. Then you get the planet Earth, you know, you get Mars, you get the sun, you get the stars, etc., etc. As time goes on, and this planet or our realm, they say that it was a ball of fire. There were different elements that was created, inorganic elements such as hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, carbon, etc., etc. So now they tell us that eventually, obviously, water had to come, and out of that water, you got this single cell organism or bacteria. This bacteria developed into fish and fish-like creatures. So this fish-like creature decided that it wanted to grow limbs to go onto the land. And once it grew limbs to go onto the land, it became an amphibian. That amphibian then turned into thousands, tens of thousands, and millions other species, such as butterflies, ants, reptiles, mammals, etc. Right? So when we get to the mammal line, we see that this, starting from this fish-like creature, it eventually allegedly evolved into a rat-like creature, which is the forefather of mammals. We have to question that, or the psyche of anyone that is telling us that your common ancestor was actually a rat-like creature. You know, so we have a lot of common ancestors according to Darwinism. You got to go and do some research on what they are saying. And I'm holding back because August the 2nd, I know the disbelievers are lurking, and I've already been dismantling this idea that we turn from species to species, and I'm not giving them any more hints. So bear with me and do some research on your own, because August 2nd right here in New York, when we have evolution versus mythology, we're going to find that the God-conscious people will be on top of those that deny the existence of the creator or super mind being involved in our creation. Yes, brother.
You know what, for those who aren't familiar with what's going on in the American conscious community, because of course we've got loads of brothers over here in the UK that tune in as well, that may just be coming in fresh, or even people that are just coming in fresh. We've got audience from all over, from Australia to Thailand, to Canada, to the Caribbean, Trinidad, to Israel, etc. We've got so many people tuning in Nigeria as well. So you know what, please, can you just give like a quick brief overview of what's taking place on August the 2nd, the Evolution Conference, Evolution Mythology Conference that's taking place, who's involved and who's organizing, and where can we actually see this conference for those who are interested?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so here in New York City, we'll be having a conference on August the 2nd called Evolution versus Mythology. You know, who is God? How did man come into existence? How did life begin? Etc. You will have brothers such as Brother Polite that will be on the panel, myself, Brother Bashir. You'll have Dr. Ali Muhammad. You will have Brother Uncle Cat from the Ahmed Ra Squad, Brother Ansar, Brother Board Mind Allah. So, you know, the panel, Brother Divine Prospect, the panel is, you know, pretty diverse. You have a lot of different backgrounds, but the majority of the people that are on the panel subscribe to a Darwinistic ideal from one form to another. You know, it's different extremes on how they accept the message, but nevertheless, they generally accept that species turn into different species. So, you know, you'll be able to tune into that live if you cannot come to New York City. You can go to Sonetta Studios or Sonetta TV, look at the, some of the videos there, and it will have the link. Matter of fact, I believe that TownZoneTV.com, and you put in Sonetta, and then you will be able to see the live stream there. It is going to be a very powerful event because, like I said, we have to get back to God consciousness, and we have to understand what our European counterpart is doing in this day and time to manipulate information to take us away from divine guidance, and that must be stopped. So, brother, with your permission, I'd like to fast forward it and start kicking some Darwin tail right now. All right, cool. So listen, family. So we're back at these fish-like creatures that was growing limbs and developing themselves into other species. Now, one of the big problems with this is that when a fish or a fish-like creature is in the water, it has gills. Its physiology is built for the water. It's built to absorb through its gills oxygen through water, which is much different than land animals and land creatures. I'm sure we all agree with this. So it's impossible for such a transition to be made, and the fossil record will show exactly what I'm saying. But nevertheless, just think about this for a moment. If a fish that has gills and breathes and absorbs the oxygen through the water wants to go on the land, it has to change the physiology of how it takes in this oxygen, which means it will have to develop lungs, as we have lungs. It will have to develop a new structure. It also will have to develop from fins and scales into, its fins have to develop into legs. Its fins have to develop into feet. Its fins have to develop to support its weight on the land, which means that if we gave them the benefit of the doubt, it means that there will have to be literally tens of thousands, if not millions, of fossils that prove that they made this transition, because when it starts to mutate and it starts to reform its physiology, it actually will become weak. Now think of a child that comes out of its mother's womb. We know that first it starts to lay on its stomach, right, and move its legs and its arms, trying to get its balance and try to push up on itself so it can crawl, right? And once it learns how to crawl, it has another step, which is, and the whole time it's trying to learn how to maintain its balance. You understand? This is very important to walking the way that we walk, or any creature to actually walk. It has to maintain its balance. But once it starts crawling, it starts to stand up. And in standing up, it's trying to, once again, learn its balance. So then eventually it gets to a point where it can put one foot in front of the other, and eventually it gets to a point where it's able to run. And this is a very unique process that we can see and vision. Whether we have children or not, we are able to see how our children develop and how they start to walk. Now, mind you, that when a child goes and gets a little older, not only is it trying, after it learns to walk, it learns to run or jog a little bit, it now wants to get on a bicycle, right? But on that bicycle, even though the child learned how to walk and maintain its balance, now it has to learn to maintain its balance on a bicycle, which is an obstacle, right? This is another obstacle, which takes a different understanding of, or a more complex understanding of how to balance on particular things. The same thing with walking on a beam. You practice in school to walk on a beam, put one foot in front of the other. Well, brother, why are you saying all of these things? We're talking about a fish and not a child. But that fish that will have to develop limbs, have to change its physiology, have to change its skeletal structure. It too would have to go through these same variations and these same natural obstacles that the earth has in store for everybody. So it will have to come out of a total different area, an aqua lifestyle or a water lifestyle, to transition into a land mammal or amphibian or animal that can now function on land, where you have hills, you have valleys, you have rocks, you have trees. So there's a lot of obstacles in place for this species that has just decided that it's going to turn into another species, right? So think of this. I want you to understand this before we move on. All of these obstacles proves to be deadly to an animal that is trying to make a transition into another form of life. This means that death is inanimate. Death is for sure going to happen because that species is not used to using its limbs because it just came out of water.
Okay, I'm gonna just pause right there. I'm gonna pause right there, because I believe my brother's mic has gone off again. You know what? If you're not already subscribed to Talk with the Titans or to Titans TV, please hit the subscribe button down below. I've said it so many times. We've got loads of Titans passing through, so keep up to date with what's going on with inside of the conscious community. Because you know what? Titans TV is the home of the conscious community, home and abroad. So hit the subscribe button right now if you're not already subscribed. And also hit me up in the comment section down below. I know quite a lot of people have been messaging in. So let me just read out a few of those messages and then we're going to get straight back to my brother, Imam Bashir. So we've got here, Imam Bashir, do you believe in or witnessed the jinn of smokeless fire that shapeshift into different forms, such as the forms of dogs and snakes, move and travel at high speed, flying the winds and have wings? Okay, I'm not too sure. Also, and does he know gold jewelry and chains are not permitted? So there's quite a few people asking these questions that I don't quite understand them at the moment, but I'm gonna have to read that again. So let's see. Imam Bashir, are you with us? I can't hear you, but let me know if you are with us.
I can hear him.
Oh, you can hear him? Excellent.
I hear him.
Yep.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. So if everybody can hear him, let's go straight back in and get involved. Unfortunately, I'm going to pause you right there, my brother Imam Bashir. I'm going to ask you to just reload your screen again, because although some people on here can hear you, our YouTube audience can't actually hear you at all. So I'm going to have to apologize for the audio going wrong. All right. So where were we? Where did we just leave off? Where did we just leave off? So again, please write your comments down below, and we're listening to every single one of your comments. We're reading them. We're seeing what you have to say. So let me know, what do you think of our brother Imam Bashir and what he's saying so far? Also, if you love Talk with the Titans and you enjoy our shows, regardless if our Titans who are on don't particularly agree with your ideology or your particular viewpoint, please give us a big thumbs up. Let us know that we're doing a great job. So let me just quickly check back and see if our brother Imam Bashir is with us. I believe he is. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Has this ever happened before on
Nope.
your show?
Nope,
Wow,
this is
this
the
is
first
interesting.
time. So we're
Maybe I
gonna,
should
before we go
maybe I should
in,
put my laptop. Do you think I should switch to the laptop? I think I should try that, right?
okay, keep it going, keep it flowing, because we ain't got enough time. So before we go in, I'm just gonna say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and let's kick it. Come on, Imam Bashir, we're all ready to hear what you've got to say. So whenever
All
you're
right.
ready.
So you can see me and we're good now. Yes? Okay. All right. So I hope that they heard that explanation of the jinn. Brother Kalab, is it possible, let me ask you, brother, is it possible can we do this again? Or maybe schedule a special show where we don't have such difficulties?
Yeah,
Because this should,
we can definitely schedule in a part 2, but right now we need to go in. We need to go in. Our audience members have been waiting to hear this for a while now. Let's just go in, and we're gonna. If there's any faults, again, we'll keep on. Let's keep on plowing through, and we'll definitely pop a part 2 another time.
okay, no problem. I forgot the second question, so please forgive me. But I answered the first. So now we go back into, we talked about the fish, we talked about the obstacles they would have to, endure, and we talked about how they would be imperfect, so death would be for sure thing. Now let's go to the birds, for instance. Now we look in the sky, we see these birds. So science and the Darwinists and the neo-Darwinists, they tell us that these birds evolved from dinosaurs. So now we have an issue here where these reptiles, such as dinosaurs, how exactly did they go from 4 legs or 2 legs with 2 small arms, such as T-Rex will have, right? How did they develop themselves from the state of having scales to that transitioning into feathers, and for their hands transitioning or arms transitioning into wings? Sounds pretty crazy and intense and spooky to me. That a dinosaur will then start to develop.
Has his audio dropped again?
I believe so. Let me just check on him. Okay. So we definitely are having some troubles with Imam Bashir's audio. I think Imam Bashir, if you're listening to us right now, please try logging onto your laptop or your computer, and let's hope that we get better luck that way. So let's open this up. Whilst our brother does that, let's open it up. Let's open up. I want to know from our panel members so far, what do you think? Courtney, are you there? If you are, just unmute your mic and show yourself on the screen.
I'm here.
You're there. So please let me know what are your thoughts so far based upon Imam Bashir's diatribe so far.
I'm a little confused. Like, I'm not exactly sure.
I think you need to speak up a little bit as well. We can't hear you.
Confused. I'm not exactly sure what his stance is on it. Like, I know he's against, or he doesn't really believe in Darwinism, but what exactly does he believe? Does he believe in evolution in any way? Like, and if so, how so? Like, that's what I'd like to know.
Indeed. I think before, I think one of the other shows prior to this, he did break down that he does agree with a form of evolution. He definitely does agree with the adaptation. and even mutation, but not a species changing to another species, if I am not misquoting him. So when he gets back on, hopefully we can ask him that same question again. Who else have we heard from? Akhut Khesi. Please let me know, what are your thoughts based upon what our brother Imam Bashir has been saying so far?
Well, you missed out a few things, like, because didn't Darwin have to learn Arabic and give a dissertation in Arabic on what he found based on evolution? So he learned a lot from the Islamic faith, from Arabs and Arabic texts. So, like, why is he leaving that part out? And the guy was Ibn Khaldun.
Okay, so you're saying right now that Darwin himself is recorded as, learning Arabic and actually having to give a thesis on what he learned in the Arabic texts. And also Ibn Khaldun. I think our brother has definitely brought up Ibn Khaldun. I think he's a 14th. Well, I know he's a 14th century. Polymath, should I say? He definitely does touch on various sciences, and he definitely does speak on a form of natural selection. He definitely does speak on adaptation, and he definitely does hint to the fact that human beings came from lesser, denser creatures, from the mineral all the way up to the plant to the animals such as the monkeys, etc. So definitely,
which would be macroevolution.
Sorry?
Which sounds like macroevolution to me.
Definitely. So, we're gonna jump into this, and we're gonna see what our brother Imam Bashir has to say about this, because yet again, this isn't exactly what's written inside of the Quran. This is somebody who's coming from a Muslim background who has put forward this thesis in his Muqaddimah, I believe. So let's see what our brother Imam Bashir has to say.
Yes. I did speak about Al-Jahid as well as Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun is actually 11th century scholar, but nonetheless, they did have their theory that we came from lesser organisms, which I agree with. But however, where they stray is that they essentially insinuate that they're not directly saying, well, Ibn Khaldun goes a little bit further to say we derive from monkeys. He actually does do that. I don't agree with that. This is not Quranically correct. So therefore, in my opinion, it holds no water and no, it's not the truth. I mean, that's just what it is. It was a misunderstanding of, I think, nature, and as well as what the Quranic text said. Al-Jahid was a little bit more conservative on his ideals of evolution, but nonetheless, we want to teach you exactly how we came into existence via the Quran and how that correlates with modern day science. Now, I don't want to get into this box. See, the problem is they put you in this box where they say microevolution or macroevolution. Listen, things change.
Brother, you just said the lesser form.
Sorry?
Sorry, 1 second, my brother Akhud. All the questions can come in later on. Our brother's just going in, so let him just finish up going in, and we're going to invite our audience members to have questions, because on Talk with the Titans we have 3 major rules. Keep your mics muted at all times when our presenter is speaking or when somebody else is speaking. Respect their cipher and don't interrupt. And the third rule, as we all know, please, no swearing, no profanity. This is a family-friendly environment. We have children watching the show. So please, my brother Imam Bashir, continue.
Yes. So, there are different understandings that the Muslims has put out there, and we're going to put out ours. And a lot of it is going to be in agreement with some of the things that Ibn Khaldun said, as well as Al-Jahid. But see, this is what we got to understand. Yes, Darwin did study the Arabic language. Darwin did study the work of Al-Jahiz, and I know that for a fact. I'm not sure about Ibn Khaldun, even though he may have researched Ibn Khaldun's work as well. But there's a major difference in what those Muslims said rather and what Darwin said. The first thing is that those Muslims said that the Creator himself put us through this type of evolution. You know, Darwin takes out the Creator. So that's a very big difference. And if the Creator is there, or this supermind is there, or this intelligence is there that guided life, that aided life, that created life, all things inanimate as well as inanimate, then we give all praise to that Creator, and we do not try to act as if we are more wise than that supermind. Darwin and these neo-Darwinists, they themselves put themselves into position that they are the supermind, and that all of these transitions and all of these mutations were essentially accidental, that it was not planned or plotted out. But let's jump to the fossil record just for a moment, right? Now, when we look at the fossil record, if you look specifically at the Cambrian period, which is one of the most intense periods that shows how life came into being, you see an explosion, you hear me, of species all over the planet, an explosion of these species. You do not see this one species connecting to the other. And to prove that fact, you have them that say, you have these Darwinists and neo-Darwinists that's trying to find these transitional forms to prove that we came from other creatures. And when they look for them, they cannot find them. Why? And when they do try to give us a transitional form, you will find out that it was actually a lie. It was actually a lie. So look, if we can say 430 million years ago, they found a fossil, and this fossil is supposed to be a fish that converted itself to a land mammal, and then 430 million years later, dating back to 1930, 1940, 1970, they find the same fish. And I'm not giving out the name yet because I want those that's going to be at the conference that want to trick and confuse the people. I want them to do more research and catch us if they can, which they won't be able to. But we will show you that throughout millions, tens of millions of years and hundreds of millions of years, there's creatures that they have the fossil record for in those times, in the Cambrian period, and then you can look in today's time and see those species thriving as they were 400, 100 million years ago, 200 million years ago, and there's no transitioning happening with those creatures. So the fossil record actually supports the superior mind or super mind and intelligence was the force that was behind putting everything in life here on the planet systematically. Now, let's go to this wolf-like creature that we were talking about earlier. This is a very important topic here because it helps us understand how these Europeans, which we say are the great Dajjal according to our teaching, how they're misleading the people, how they are taking the people from God consciousness into their philosophy so they can be your God and my God. So let's look at this rat-like creature that they say is our ancient ancestors, black people. This is what they're saying your ancient ancestor was. A rat-like creature that developed itself into monkeys, apes, And then on the other side of the line that takes a split, it develops itself into a man-ape or ape-man, which can be found under the so-called Australopithecus or Australopithecine, which is classified as great man-apes or hominid species. This is what they're talking about. Now, if you look at just the development of the ears of orangutan, chimpanzees, any type of species that we will classify in the hood as monkeys, right? Look at the development of their ears and look at the development of the ears of the human. You see great differences. So we know that there could not have been a man-ape or ape-man transition because apes do not walk bipedal. They do not walk on 2 feet. So they use their arms as feet as well as their hands. As their legs, their rear legs. So their structure is different. So here is another case where a creature has to change its anatomy for so-called beneficial changes so that they can ultimately become a human. So then we go back and look more into this theory of species turning into species, and we say after millions of years, hundreds of millions of years of evolution, a wolf-like, dog-like creature decides that it wants to take its 4 legs, its paw, its tail, its snout, and head to the water because now it wants to become a water-dwelling creature. And now that if it tries to become this water-dwelling creature, its legs start to transform into fins, and then eventually turns into a whale, and then eventually turns into a dolphin. Now, if anybody told you that some dog-like creature decided that it was going to go to the water, and that it was going to turn its legs and paws into fins, you would have to say you are outside your mind. But why would they be feeding us this type of information? Because they are trying to take us away from God consciousness, and it has been working. Because the majority of our people inside the United States of America, we can go further to other nations as well, but dealing with the United States of America as the barometer for our people and how their spirituality has declined, we will see that they are agnostic and atheist in their understanding. And they have left their sacred text for ignorance. And this is systematically planned by our European counterparts. And this is why we have to know that this so-called species turning into species never happened. In fact, what happened was every species was brought in on its own rights. It was created as it was, as its own species, but it never came from another species. So in other words, a dinosaur did not turn into a bird, for the simple fact that the dinosaur has scales, and those scales will have to turn into feathers, and those arms on the dinosaur will have to turn into wings. Now you know that a bird cannot fly on one wing. This is true. So the development of the wings could not have just sporadically came out and one day I have legs and arms and the next day I have wings and bird feet. That doesn't happen. And even if it took millions of years for that to happen, which it certainly didn't, but even if it took millions of years for that to happen, we should see it in the fossil records, because things that have mutated and it hasn't been able to fully form itself, it is weak. So if it is developing wings so it can take flight in the air, that means that it will have to face the carnivores. It will have to face the other species that want to cause it harm. And they tell us that these species develop and change because the environment they was in. For example, the fish wanted to come out of the water and grow legs because the fish was threatened at sea, or it was threatened with hunger. Either way, it was threatened. So it decided that it wanted to preserve itself, and then therefore it turned into another creature systematically. But why is it that when we look at the fossil record, in particular during the Cambrian period and pre-Cambrian period, we can see the existence of life then over 400 million years ago, and we can see those same creatures today. And I can't wait to come back after the conference to actually show you some of these fossil records. But I can't do it today because the enemy is lurking. But we're going to get them. But let me stop right here. And I'm going to conclude and then I'll get a question. Going back to the polar bear. Going back to the polar bear for a moment. The polar bear is a very fine specimen for us to discover, did these things actually transform themselves and gain different appendages, and was it just accidental? Because the Arctic is so cold that anything that is not prepared or do not have the physical, whether external or internal, the physical things that is needed for it to survive there, it would die instantly because of the severe cold. So the polar bear has a perfect skin that is dark and melanated, and it has 2 layers of the fur. 2 layers of the fur. Now what happens is the sun hits the skin that is melanated with carbon and it absorbs it. Once it absorbs it, it helps push out the energy to the fur, which appears to be white, but it's not actually white, it's actually clear. So this animal, whose paws are different than other bear paws, such as the grizzly bear, etc., is so huge in diameter, it also helps them swim in the water. So this creature is made perfectly for the Arctic weather. But here's the question. Since the cold preserves body, which is fact, you have 2 extremes that preserves body. You have the cold and you have the extreme heat of the desert. Once a body goes into these elements, they are instantly maintained because of the extremity. Right? Now in Antarctica, in this cold weather, you have the Arctic fox and you have the polar bear that is thriving there. And do you know that they actually found a mammoth? They actually found a mammoth in Antarctica that was fully preserved in its original form. And guess what? They said it was so preserved that they actually could eat the flesh if they wanted to. Now, I know we ain't eating no mammoth, unless we really have to, but that's what the scientists said, nonetheless. So our question is why is it that we don't see these transitional forms by the tongue? And this is what Darwin actually asked in his book. Why don't we see there should be tons of transitional forms? Why should there be tons of transitional forms? Because if you are making a transition and there's slow transitions, you will actually be weak, which kills the survival of the fittest theory. That kills that. So I want to jump to survival of the fittest and natural selection. So we see it and we say, well, family, if it's survival of the fittest, that makes sense. Whoever is the fittest, whoever is the strongest, they will survive. And from that standpoint, we can generalize and say, maybe that's true, but it's really not true. And this is the reason we go in more depth on this subject. But this is why it's not true. It's not true because when you look at a lion, let's observe a lion for a moment. The lion seeks out its prey. So we could look at a gazelle or we could look at a buffalo, right? But when it's seeking out its prey, it's looking for not weakness, but weakness on one extent, but it's really looking for opportunity because they look for the young babies that was just birthed, or just been around for a little while, or they look for the elders that's on their way out. But however, the majority of the herd is strong, but they also attack those because they look for opportunity. So if survival of the fittest was truly authentic, which no one really knows what that means, well, we're going to explain what it means on August the 2nd. But if it is true, this means that there would not be a hierarchy on the planet as we know today. There would not be a food chain on the planet as we know today because everything was made to be balanced. Everything was created to be in balance, in sync with one another to one degree or another, right? So we humans are on the top of the chain. So this means that we can go to any species on the planet and do as we will with it. But since natural selection and survival of the fittest is one of their theories, that means that somehow this powerful lion is not strong enough or wise enough, and it would eventually develop itself into a stronger, more powerful thinker than we are. Because people have hunted it, have preyed on it, have put them, took their fur and put their head on the wall, etc. And we know what those peoples are. So at the end of the day, family, when they're telling us stuff, let us research the information. Let us take the time to say, does this really make sense? Is it logical? Is it rational? And it's not logic and it's not rationality, but we have to get back to that. We cannot allow these people to tell us that things are turning into other things just by chance, and we cannot allow them to instill in our baby's mind that they are somehow inferior because the European came after them.
Wow. Our brother just dropped some powerful information for us. You know what? I felt like I was in an actual class right there. I don't know about you. I need to actually go back, rewind this video, and press play on every single point where Imam Bashir was talking and have my pen and pad at hand ready. Okay. And I hope everybody's taking notes as well, because I know there's a ton of you guys that are following every single video that has been put out on this upcoming Evolution Mythology Conference. So please let me know if you're following it. Let me know if you're following it, and who are you actually rooting for? Who's been dropping some science to you that you've been appreciating? So far, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've been appreciating what my brother Imam Bashir has just imparted upon us. I don't know about you yet again, but for me, I'm speaking on my own. This has to be one of the most powerfulest pieces of information he's dropped so far on the Evolution Conference. I'm here just waiting for August the 2nd. I'm trying to figure out which, I never knew. I never knew that, during the pre-Cambrian and even the Cambrian period, that there is no transitional fossils. So I've learned something new. I've got to go back and check this up as well. Hit up my encyclopedias and check up everything that he's just said. So you know what? If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Why should you hit the subscribe button? Because we've got phenomenal teachers such as Imam Bashir, Irritated Genie, Lord Abba, Gorilla Hebrew, Shaka Ahmos, the Amun Ra Squad, Anka Kek, Asaim Hotep, Jonathan Owens, all passing through the studios and dropping some great, powerful information. You know what? We've got new shows coming up as well. If you're in London, we're going to be in Speaker's Corner. Yeah, that's right. Speaker's Corner, Hyde Park this Sunday. So if you want to get your message across, join us. We're going to be debating at Speaker's Corner on Sunday, from 2 o'clock onwards. So yeah, if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, just hit the subscribe button down below, and also let us know what you think of the show. So I'm going to open it up right now. I'm going to open it up. Who wants to get the first questions in? We've reached the second half of the show where we're going to open up the mic, open up the YouTube to ask any questions. So who wants to get their first question in? And I know my brother Konsu, he is the arm of the Arm & Ra squad. He is the founder of Team Osiris, one of the founders of Team Osiris, and these are the Scientifical brothers right here. So let me know, Konsu, what have you got to say?
Well, one question I have is kind of, if you have this information for August 2nd, what are you withholding? If it's scientific fact and it's going to hold its weight, what could one possibly do to prepare to refutate what you're saying if it's scientific fact? So in order to give a proper understanding and scope of what you're presenting, why do you have to withhold information until the 2nd?
Yes, that's a great question. I mean, I'm giving you the information. I'm not going specific as far as the hold on, is my camera clear here? Are we clear here, or?
Your camera isn't showing at the moment. Okay,
there we are.
But go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, we'll go.
You gotta be careful of Satan and his agents, brother, because we're dealing with people that manipulate information. You understand? Even though it's truth, you're dealing with people that's manipulating information, and we have to catch them by their toes. You understand? Already been catching them and putting out a lot of information, but as we get closer to the event, they're lurking and they're looking for information so they can try to confuse the people, and I will not allow them to try to confuse the people, and we're going to give it to them nice, rough, and raw, because we bring in God consciousness back. We bring in our creator divine. Well, it ain't never go nowhere, but we're going to bring it back to the forefront in the hearts and the minds of the people.
So basically you're saying your platform will be, generally speaking, so forgive my ignorance because I'm speaking in ignorance, I'm just asking. So the platform will be God consciousness that supports scientific action and evolution. Basically, the God concept being the force and will of creation.
Yes, sir. And not only just the God concept, as if we're going to say, like some creationists say that, it's God and he just made it happen. He said, "Kun fayakun," be, and it was, and it just happened like that. We don't come from that perspective. What we actually come from is that, and I'll give you a little insight. When we're looking at these inorganic and organic material that had to come together to create life. We understand this thing. This is true. But the question is, how did it come together? And who explains this connection the best? And what we're going to find is that it's not science or this new age science that told us where these things came from, but our ancient text has always told us about creation. So they're catching up to divine guidance that was sent to us, and that super mind that gave us an insight on life, what we're supposed to do, our moral and ethical code. So the Quran, the scriptures, and what we will call the Bible, even though, that's controversial, you can go back to ancient Kemet, where you can see these same stories of, why were they telling us that we, clay, mud, the earth was a part of our creation? The first obvious thing is that because we are a part of the earth. You know what I'm saying? The elements are dust, water or clay, water, mud, and there's some other things that you really want to enjoy on this conference, what I'm going to bring to the people. But it's ashes to ashes, the dust to dust when we die. We know this for a fact. So we know that we come from a clay or a mud-like substance because this is decayed organic matter, which is the catalyst of life. So, and also that mud or that clay has the necessary elements such as amino acids and proteins, which is necessary for us to have life. So this is what science is just coming into understanding, but we're going to bring it all together. And here's another thing. When you really analyze the scientific claims that we come from species, out of species, etc., this is what they don't tell you. But by doing research, you will see. They're still trying to figure out what came first, the chicken or the egg. They're still trying to figure this out. Although we should have the answer and know this already. That you don't get the egg without the chicken. This is fact. And if you have a chick egg, if we go with that scenario, that you have the chicken egg that had to be first, then this would mean, once again, how many chicks you think will survive without the warmth of their mother? How many you think will survive? How many you think will survive in a grotesque, primitive society where things are eating things, the weather is not right, you know, the atmosphere is still vulnerable? How many things do you think will actually survive in their infancy stage? So these are people we're saying are intelligent, but really they just display stupidity. So, and let me tell you, you have RNA, you have DNA, right? So they say that, well, you have to have RNA and you have to have DNA in order to establish life. But which one comes first? They're still speculating over these things, but they're acting like they know how we came into existence. So I'm going to stop on this so we can take another question, but I want us to think, do any of us actually know every single step of creation? Of course not. Of course not. We only can say, well, we know these compounds was necessary, these bio units are necessary, etc., to create this life, and we get an idea of the molding process, which the Quran says the molding. He molded man into shape, right? The Bible also says the same thing. Ancient Kemet also says the same thing. The Ashanti, the Fulani, they all say the same thing. In fact, the Ashanti say, we come from, these are thousands of years before so-called contemporary science, before they started analyzing DNA, before they started doing paleontology, before they started digging up the earth trying to find things. We had the information there already, so they're trying to catch up to us, but they're really not. They're trying to put themselves as God, which is the problem. But go ahead, brother. I don't know.
Damn, hold on 1 second, my brothers. You know, my brother's going in right now. I don't know how you lot feel, but I'm saying this from now. My brother's going in. Listen, also, the YouTube is popping off. It seems like you are actually having the August 2nd conference / debate taking place in the YouTube comment section. I've got my brother Truth Hurts, Tunji Legba, everybody just going in at the moment. Ammon Rays. Listen, you don't need to slow down. I can't read all of these comments. Alright. I'm gonna try though. I'm gonna actually try to get some of these comments in. But before I do that, before I actually do, wow, I'm reading them. God, you lot are crazy. Alright. You know what? So I want to open up as well to our our panel members right now. Yeah, if you got any questions, please let me know. Just give me a sign that you want to ask a question. And then we keep it flowing from there. You know what? I would love to have Unc here in the studios right now. You know why I would love to have Unc in the studio right now? Because I want to know. I know he is black African power all the way through. But our brother Imam Bashir has just given us a very great point, very poignant point. And he states that the Fulanis, the Ashantis, the Hebrews, the Arabs, the Egyptians, all state that we came from the dust of the earth, the mud of the earth. We were all molded and formed to be human beings today. So I want to know, how does that correlate with Darwinism? Okay, I'm not too aware of any African country, any African culture that negates the presence of the Most High, the deity, the omnipresent, the omnipowerful, the supreme intellect of the universe, the great architect of the universe and beyond. So, I don't know any African nation or country or culture that negates that. So I want to know, how does Darwinism now correlate with that? How does Darwinism now correlate with Kemetic or Egyptian theology? Because surely, even in Egyptian theology, we have our brother, or should I say, our Niter, Khanum, molding man from the potter's clay. So how does this all correlate? I don't know. So I wish our brothers from the Amun-Ra squad, such as Asai Hotep and Uncle Kick, was actually here with us to give us the breakdown. You know what? It's getting very late over here. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you've got any last questions, please let me know. Who's got any questions? Isa.
Yes, brother. Yes, brother.
Hey, brother, if I could, real quick, I just want to say something. Here's the thing that is so ironic, right? We listen to people, Sar Imhotep, Al-Kakek, the God killer. They tell us that the Creator doesn't exist, so much so that they say this is real black atheism. You understand? So when you detach yourself from spirituality, you cannot comprehend the creation of man. You cannot comprehend our development. And let me tell our brothers one more thing. The same thing happened with the Muslims. We know for sure that the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we know that it's fact that he said that after the Tabi'in and after Tabi'in, that they were going to go astray after those 3 generations, that the Muslims were going to go astray. So if we know that the Muslims was going to go astray, we know that the ideals of the Qur'an was going to be manipulated and going to be misunderstood, and we know that they was going to miseducate the people, and we know that they was going to be agents of the Dajjal themselves, because they went away from God consciousness. So what I'm saying is that Darwin and these crackers, these Europeans, they are trying to take us away from the Creator to replace the Creator with themselves. We must not let that happen. I won't let that happen. I'll push them to the hellfire where they belong, and anybody else that's with them. So what I'm telling you, family, is that we're going to show, and I can't wait to come back, so I'll do the presentation live, but do some research before the event. Go look at the Cambrian period. Go investigate species that's 430 million years old, that they said was a transitional fossil. And then, lo and behold, in 1932, off the Indian Ocean, they fishing pull up this fish that they said was extinct over 70 million years ago. But come to find out, this fish is live and alert, and it didn't have lungs like they said. Nope, it had lipid noise, which fish have. So it's like, listen, family, they're trying to hoodwink us, and they're trying to use this paradigm of so-called science because it means to know. But they had you thinking Pluto was a planet when you was in school. If you're 35 or in that age group, they had you thinking Pluto was a planet. Then a few years later, they say, oh, we made a mistake. Pluto is not a planet. They'll have you thinking that Piltdown Man was real. This is a real fossil. Then they say, no, they started it. They trying to find something that connects them and makes them special, which the thing that makes us special as a human species is our disposition. How is it that lions, the tigers, the bears are powerful with all their might, and we as humans are weak in our stature in comparison to these mighty animals, but we still rule them? We can still put a chain on an elephant and run them around the zoo and make them even drive a little tricycle. This is the power that man has. So you mean to tell me that all of these species that are strong, that are powerful, that has no transitional forms, by the way, but are strong and are powerful, that somehow they got caught up into not evolving as quick as we did? It's the survival of the fittest. That means that every species is eventually going to become so superior where the prey is not going to no longer be the prey. I mean, the food chain is all messed up with this garbage, natural selection and survival of the fittest. So, we'll go to the question.
You know what? Hey, we're gonna have Issa coming in right about now. Before that takes place, you know what? We've got the YouTube saying the Kemetic groups do seem kind of like we don't acknowledge a higher power type attitude, like they hate saying the word God or something. Laugh out loud. And that is from Yeshaya Yasharala. You know what? Also, our brother Asayim Hotep, he says, I do, and I will show that at the conference. So that's going back to my statement about God and I believe human beings created from the earth, etc., from the clay, etc. So he's got a surprise for us at the conference. It seems like everybody's got a surprise for us at the conference. So I can't wait to watch this. So you know what? Get your tickets in from early. And watch it live. So let me go straight back to Isa. So Isa, assalam. Go ahead.
Assalam. Can you hear me, brothers?
Yalla, yes, my brother. Go ahead.
Imam Bashir, I just wanted to, in relation to what you said about Ibn Khaldun and the other Muslims possibly going astray with their conclusions. Most of what you've said, it sounds like you believe in evolution, but you don't believe in the interspecies change. Allah says to travel in the land, in the earth, and see how He originated creation and how He repeats it. So I would like to ask you, if He's telling human beings to do this investigation, what else is there that we're going to find as to how anything came about? Because all we ever observe is something changing from one form to another. I'm saying within the same species, based upon the environment. So regardless of the fact that we don't or we can't reproduce a species changing from one species to another, how else could we have got here? Because we're told to go and observe and investigate, and I'm saying the mind can only conclude, look, everything we see changes into something else similar to it. So what else is there that you can put in the gap?
Yes, sir. Now, I want us to understand two things, right? Variation in species does not denote that you turn to another species. For example, you look at humans. Let's look at humans. You have Chinese man that has a different phenotype, skull structure. You have, the pygmies that are very small in stature, and they have.
Brother, can I just interject there, brother? Can I just interject?
Let me finish, and then you can, respond.
No, I was just saying. It seems you're going off. I just wanted to interject in case you misunderstood what I was saying. I'm just.
Okay, my brother Isa, keep your mic muted. Let him continue.
Yeah, I'm on par for you, brother. With you, just walk with me a little bit, all right? So what I was talking about was variation of species, because you said we observe things change. We observe, inside the species that things change to look like another thing. So you have Chinese people that have a different phenotype from, the Sudanese people. You have the pygmies that have a different phenotype and skull structure due to their small stature. So when you look in the human species, you see differences in it, but you do not see a orangutan, for instance, turning into a human. You understand? You do not see a frog turning into a bat. In fact, you do not see a rat turning into a bat, you know, that we call a rat with wings. When he went to the Galapagos, right, and he looked at these finches, and he noticed on the different islands in the Galapagos that the finches had a different beak type structure, or they had, you know, different feathers, or they was a little bigger, a little smaller. If you go to Madagascar, you will see the different variations of lemurs all over the place. Some tall, some big, etc., etc. Environment plays a role on whatever is there, whether it's inanimate or animate, whether it's alive or it's a non-living thing. I agree, environment changes it. However, what I'm trying to get you to understand that things do not go, a cat is not going to turn into a dog. Never, never. It can make a different species, a different type of cat. Maybe the skull will be bigger because it moves to a certain place, or, you know, so things can change and things can mutate. Now, to conclude, when you're saying that the Quran tells us to look around and ponder and all of these wonderful things, two things that we have to understand. One, when we look around and ponder, we don't see these transitional forms happening as they say they happen. Two, we never witness anything other than things returning to the earth and things coming out the earth. This is what we witness on a regular basis. We witness during the winter solstice or the fall time before the winter solstice, we witness the earth, the trees dying out, the leaves dying out, the leaves falling to the ground, the grass turning its color, you know, dying. This shows us death. But then in the spring, you start seeing the life comes back. This is the examples that we see when we ponder and observe on nature. We see that things die, go to the earth, things come up out of the earth. The food that we eat, everything that we eat comes out of this thing that we call earth. In that earth, when you tell somebody to go get me some earth, you're telling them go get you some dirt, go get you some grass, etc. Right? So when we look at the earth, we see that the soil, which feeds us and stimulates us, has to hold the necessary nutrients in order for us to survive. So everything is a cycle, and that cycle begins with the soil of the earth, whether we believe that or believe that not. So there's some things I want you to think about and investigate. But after August the 2nd, you're not going to have no problems or no misunderstanding, because I'm going to tell you exactly how the planet was formed, and when the planet was formed, all from the Quran. All from the Quran. When the planet was formed, what happened, and how life started to develop. Like this. Do you know melanin, which gives us our color, the carbon inside our skin? They call this melanin, right? Do you know that is our type of photosynthesis for humans and animals, etc.? But when you go to the plant has chlorophyll, chloroform, right? Now, this chlorophyll makes the plants green, and it also extends to different colors. But did the chlorophyll ever evolve? Never. It never tell you that there was pigmentation. There's no evolution there. Oh, I didn't know, Issa, if you wanted to,
Yeah, no, you kept breaking up, bro. Personally, I feel I kept interjecting because I could see the road you were going down, and I feel you haven't answered my question. Basically, to sum it up, how do, based on the natural formation, how things work, right? How did we come about? Because you're not accepting that there was some sort of statue of clay that magically came about. You're accepting some form of evolution. So I'm saying, well, what is it you're putting on the table?
Okay,
what is it
brother.
you accept? If it's not interspecies, what is it?
Right. So the coming into life, I think I will put this out. So in the Quran we have the Hammer, and we have the South Side, which is the tri-ring place. I'm not going to give up too much, but what I will tell you is that there was. I'm going to explain how the inorganic and organic matter came together. And if you look at, what is called the hydrolysis, if you look at hydrolysis, you can go look that up. This essentially tells you that there was this clay mud material that was in the water that combined inorganic as well as organic compounds together. Now, inside that water and that mud, the elements started to decay and become organic decayed matter together. Then they go on to say that eventually somehow each cell had to lose some of its molecular, some of the water out of its molecule in order to establish its shape. So nonetheless, this process is very deep, and and I'm not trying to, I'm trying to get myself.
Were you talking about abiogenesis or biogenesis?
Well, abiogenesis is certainly part. Yes, certainly part of the equation.
Okay. Not abiogenesis, sorry, biogenesis. Okay. Yeah, no. Hear what I'm saying. I'm not talking about how life began, like how the single cell. I'm saying you now have a human being in existence. Okay, we've put on the table that you had the simpler life forms, which change into other life forms, and over time produce the variations and human beings. You're saying that no species can change to another species. So I'm asking you, in, let's say, what we call the chain of the existence of man, what was it that man was before he was man? What do you say
man
he was before?
always.
Man
was always.
Okay. So you agree he was clay or mud or what? What do you mean always man? Because he didn't always exist. So how was?
Okay. See, when you're constructing something, right? And I get what you're saying. When you're constructing something, right? Generally, you might have nuts and bolts and screws and different pieces that you're going to put together in order to create the car, right? Now, the nuts and the bolt is not the car, but it's actually pieces that are used in creating the car or developing the car. So what I'm saying is that the processes, when we go to, when the earth was in a state of prebiotic stages, that those were like nuts and bolts in the creation or bringing things about, bringing the elements about, bringing the necessary ingredients about to create life, not just man, but every other species that's on the planet as well. So those nuts and bolts that was put together were being systematically put together to develop and design a particular thing. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, we all start from the same source, which that source is the Almighty Creator first and foremost. So we start from that point when the Creator decided to put us in, give us life, or to create us, right? So what I'm saying is that once that process started, everything had its own line. Everything had its own development. And man was not just like he was today, with the intellectual capabilities we have today. So through time, he had to learn and grow and mentally, and physically as well. He was not a man ape. He was his own species, coming into his own right. Just like the butterfly, just like the bee, just like the turtle, just like the fish. Everything has its own line. And we can see that this is true through the Bible.
Okay. You know what? We've actually reached the end of the show. So I'm going to ask if you've got one last dying question to ask our brother Imam Bashir,
Yeah, I want to
please.
ask it.
Ahut, please ask it away because we've reached the end of the show.
Well, basically, what's this lesser form of man that you're referring to? Because any lesser form to this modern form that's macro evolution you're talking about there, and also clay to modern human. You've got macro evolution. Then you can just pick a transition, because from clay to modern, you should be able to provide us the transitional fossil.
Say it again. I'm supposed to give you the transitional fossil from mud to creation?
Well, you're the one saying that the creation story is from clay to modern human. So we know that you don't just come from clay to modern human. So you would have to provide us some transitional fossils to back that up also.
Why would we have to do that, sir?
Because how? Well,
listen.
How do you go from clay to modern human? And then you also say lesser human. So anything lesser than modern human is that is macroevolution right there. You said that yourself.
That's what I'm saying, brother. See, you have to go into these terminologies much more. Now, I can say microevolution. I can say that, but don't get caught up into these boxes that they have put us in. It's a trap.
Okay, then I'll go by the words that you said. You said lesser form, right?
Hold on. Let me explain something to you. Don't fall into their traps. If you want to use the terms loosely. Now,
I'm using your terms.
Listen, okay, you're using my terms. What I'm telling you is that, for example, brother, if we were to lay when somebody dies, we've buried somebody before. What happens if you were just to lay their body out on the grass, or you bury them 6 feet deep without a coffin? That speeds this process.
The evolution is to do with what happens within life and life forms. We're not talking about after dying. We all know what dying happens. We're talking about this lesser form. You said lesser form. So explain to me what happens from lesser form to modern human.
Okay, listen to me, brother. I will explain that. I'm going to explain that, but you gotta walk with me. Because I'm asking you.
I don't need to hear about after death and decaying and going in the ground. That's long.
You may not need to hear it, but it's other people listening other than yourself. So if you don't want to answer it, somebody else can answer it. But I'm going to answer it for you because it's absolutely rhetorical. So you said I have to show you proof that we come from the clay, or this is the catalyst for giving life. All right. So if you've been listening, I've told you for thousands of years, our people have been telling us that clay has played a vital role in our existence. Now the question is, can you go into science and figure out if that is true? Now, if science tells us that this is true, that from this primordial soup that was created at the beginning of time, it was the catalyst for bringing in life, then we have to say to ourselves, our ancestors was correct. Now, the reason why I wanted to go to death and what happens to the body during rigor mortis, during decomposition, etc., when it decays itself, it returns to the earth. There's no doubt about that. So the same way you come in is the same way you go out. You understand? This is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the earth and the elements of the earth, watch on August the 2nd, brother. It will be in more detail, more scientific terms, and I'll prove with the evidence that I'm going to show you. But when you understand that you return from the earth, you can't return to something that you ain't originate from. So the earth obviously originated all of us. Now, when you're talking about lesser form, I'm not speaking of a lesser form of a human like our European counterparts are speaking lesser form of the human, because they say that Homo erectus is a lesser form of a human. You understand? So Homo sapiens sapiens is the biggest or the most evolved species, Homo sapiens sapiens, so they're perfect, they're the best. This is what our European counterparts have put on us. But this is not true of the record, because Homo sapiens is what? Homo sapiens sapiens only, or Homo sapiens 150,000 years old. We're running around that era. But if we can go back 400, 500, 700, 800, 900, a million years, and see that these people were writing, what they're saying were primitive people and not people that had our mindset. If we see that they were writing, they were selling over a million years ago. If we know that they created culture and they had language, despite that our European counterparts told us they didn't have language. They were speaking with clicks. They was doing this. They were doing that. But we find out and have the supporting evidence that a million years ago, they were doing the same similar things as we do today. I'm not talking about building structures. I'm talking about the capability to think, the capability to build a vessel for cruise to another landmass. If they have that proof and that evidence, this also shows that we were more than they say that we were, because of what we were doing, how was we living. Then put that on top of the fossil record, the oldest fossil record, and show that things have not changed as they say have changed over 100 million years ago. You can still see these same creatures today. What would that tell you? That will have to tell you that these things were developed from this earth, and we're not going to have all the answers. That's why we say Allahu A'lam, but we'll be able to give you enough to understand how you came into the world and what your position is in retrospect to the planet. That's what's important. You are a manifestation of God. You understand? And all nature, I'm coming right now, and all nature, the sun, the moon,
Okay. I believe our brother, your mic has just gone. Your mic has just gone, and you was about to go in, but I'm glad that your mic is gone for a hot second. Can you come back? Go on. Go ahead. Imam, you there? Yeah, your mic is still muted. I can't hear you. All right. We've literally reached, the end of the show. We can't continue any longer. But you know what? If you want to hear more from Imam Bashir, he's going to be on the after show special for a little bit longer. So if you're here and you want to hear the after show special, hit me up in my inbox and I'll definitely inbox you the link to get involved. All right, Ammon Reyes, I see you, my brother. I see you. Unfortunately, we couldn't get your question asked again on the show, so we're going to try to get him to answer it on an off-air show. So if you're tuned in right now, hit us up on the Talk with the Titans Facebook group. Talk with the Titans Facebook group, and we'll give you the after show special link in there. Also, if you're not already a member, if you're not already subscribed to Talk with the Titans TV, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button down below or above there or over here in the corner, wherever it may be. All right, so you know what? I've been Callum L. This has been Talk with the Titans. Imam Bashir, is your mic fixed? No, I don't. Can you say anything? I don't believe your mic is fixed as of yet. So you know what?
But
We're
I
going to
can
get
hear
Imam
him,
Bashir
though.
back in again to give us some more. You know, he's going to come back in anyway. He's going to come back in after the August the 2nd conference. He's going to come back in and give us a thorough breakdown. But you're going to catch him here on the after show special when we log off. So I'm signing out. Peace to everybody out there, and thanks for tuning in.